because he felt sad or left out.
Yeah, I hope you feel like shit, a little tramp. Another word for tramp.
I was just going to say, who's the tramp now, Trampy?
Who's the tramp now?
In a world
Where
tomorrow's blockbusters reign.
and yesterday's classics are forgotten.
3 women intend to remember.
Hey everyone, welcome to Millennials at the Movie House, the podcast where your average Janes watch older movies and answer the question we've put to ourselves. Are they still relevant, and should we still be watching them today? I'm Betsy.
I'm Tracy. And I'm Serena.
And today we're talking about The Gold Rush, 1925, written, directed, produced, starring Charlie Chaplin, Max Swain, Tom Murray, and Georgia Hale. For a quick synopsis, I will turn it over to Tracy. Go.
She just looked at me and I was like, don't even. She was like literally giving me the eyes and I'm like, I'm like, oh God.
Pure fear right there.
Dude, real fear.
The Gold Rush. It is about a prospector going to find his riches. His claim. His kind of adventures. He runs into some guys, there's a storm, dealing with it. He ends up at one of these popped up towns, sees a girl, falls in love with her. Hilarity ensues. He ends up with the original guy he hooked up with. They go and find all of the gold, become millionaires, happy ending. The girl comes back. The end.
That was really quick synopsis.
I mean,
it's a very simple plot.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of silent movies are on the simpler side.
Yeah.
Because
it can't be so complex. I mean, I was like leering at the TV the entire time. I didn't want to take my eyes off the screen because I didn't want to miss anything.
Yeah.
Good synopsis. Good job. So in general, what did everyone think of it?
I'll go first since Tracy's sipping her mermaid tea. I actually really liked it. I had low hopes, my expectations. It has to be a good silent film to keep your attention, right?
Yes.
I loved it.
Good.
I loved the music. It was kind of calming and funny, and it went well. It paired perfectly with the scenes, and they did throw in some flashcard, wording to kind of keep us afloat with the.
I also really liked the music. I thought there were parts that were a bit long.
Yes. Some of the scenes
that they could have shortened up a little bit.
Like dragged on a little.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think we have talked in the past about pacing with things. Mm-hmm. And I think that goes to just the time and what was expected in a movie. Mm-hmm. But other than that, general, it was good.
Yeah.
Yep. That scene with the house on the cliff, that was a long scene.
Well, I kind of liked that
but
one,
it was
though.
funny.
But yes, there were some
funny,
scenes. Yeah.
The dance scene, the Monte Carlo Hall scenes tended to go very long to me. Yeah. The music, I should point out, it's the original sheet music that came with the movie. So we watched the original 1925 cut of it, remastered. There's a 1942 cut, which apparently is different. And then there was a 2012 Criterion cut, which is, I think they tried to bring it back to the original 25 cut a little bit more. But this was kind of on the original side. So this was everyone's first silent film?
Yes.
This was everyone's first Charlie Chaplin?
Yes.
Also, yes.
Oh, wow.
Did he have any talkies?
He did. He held out for a really long time. He didn't want to move into talkies, but he did. His first one was The Great Dictator in 1940. And then he kept working, for decades. So, but he's most known for doing his silence, I feel like. Not a lot of people know him for the sound films.
Yep.
Well, let's jump right in then.
Dive right in.
Let's dive right in. Top of the marquee. What was everyone's favorite part?
I had a couple of good parts. There was no dialogue.
But there were still quotes.
There were still quotes. No, but actually it was any part that literally made me laugh out loud.
Yeah.
And because sometimes the slapstick is not my go-to type of humor. So when they got me to laugh, I credit it as, okay, that was a good scene.
Yeah.
So there were...
The bar is set high for you.
It is. And there were 3 particular parts. The first one was the cane through the snow. Real simple. He put his cane down, and because it's Alaska, it's in a blizzard, and he leans on it, and it goes right through the snow. Real simple, but it was one of the first scenes where I was like, Okay, that it was his mannerism.
It was the first gag of the movie.
It was.
And I think it was unexpected.
Yeah, I don't know why, because I feel like it's really
tone.
obvious, but it did set the tone. I thought that was good. The dance scene when his pants were falling down, so he grabbed the rope to use as a belt, and it ended up being a leash to a dog. So
that was funny.
You know, you have
that. It was funny until it was not, but yeah.
Right, yeah. And then the foot to the face at the very end. Classic.
Cracked you up.
Cracked me up. And I think you're right. You said it was sibling humor, which I agree with. It's one of those like, you can't hit my sister, but I can hit her type of thing. And I've kicked you many times. I've kicked my brother just like that. Like
we kick each other so much that at this point we catch each other's feet. That's how. Yeah.
So that was hilarious. But my favorite part was when the bad guy grabbed the girl and she did this. And I don't know if it's from the classic. No, don't grab me. I think it's from silent film.
It's silent. It's the pantomime.
Yes,
that's the
it's
style
that. No,
of acting.
don't leave me alone. Like leave me alone.
So dramatic.
Yeah.
So over exaggerated.
Yes, and it's the exact moment in Singing with the Rain where she goes, no. Yes. So it's that. That's
I forgot about
that was actually because it was like, okay, yes, here's the iconic silent film that I resonate with.
I want to rewatch that.
Singing in the Rain?
Yeah.
Now that you have something to compare.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I liked that one a lot.
You could also watch...
This is my top 4.
You could also watch, we were talking about this before, the 1992 biopic of Charlie Chaplin. Because that kind of shows people talking and doing their thing while filming these scenes that you see in silent films.
And it's Robert Downey Jr.?
Yep. Serena, your favorite part?
Okay. Favorite part.
Favorite part.
Huh. Okay, so I literally only wrote down, I thought you was a chicken.
She actually grabbed a quote from it.
She did.
I did. The Big Jim. Yeah. Before the character development came through, I was like, who is this big lug anyways? And then the quote of him like being starving and eyeballing Chaplin, and he becomes this beautiful, intricate, not piece of chicken. That was full chicken costume.
That was a heck of a costume.
And
the head tilts were like very chicken-like.
Yeah, and the way he was walking too, which I also think he walked like that regular.
Yes.
But Big Jim was literally starving. They were held up in this house in a snowstorm, and he starts like hallucinating. You can see his eyes go wide, and he's like...
He did a good crazy eye.
Yeah. And the quote, I literally pictured his voice saying it. Like, I pictured him I thought you was a chicken!
I imagine him to have the voice of...
like a big burly...
Rudolph. Yukon Cornelius.
Oh, okay.
Not Rudolph, but Yukon Cornelius.
Okay. I was like starting to think of Rudolph's voice.
Right.
I was like, I thought you was a chicken!
I'm like, that's so random that you would pick this stupid cartoon.
Of course.
Okay, all right, that's acceptable.
You did also compare him to
Brutus.
Or, Bluto. Or
I know, because I was getting...
was it Bluto?
It used to be. It was once Bluto, and then they changed it to Brutus. I guess.
I think I remember that name, the Bluto.
Yeah.
I was getting Popeye vibes. I think it's a slapstick. Anything slapstick kind of...
Right, which we were talking about is slapstick is such a iconic part of cartoons.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when people think of slapstick,
Tasmanian
they think
Devil,
of
like everything.
they think of
Three
the Three
Stooges.
Stooges.
Yeah.
Which I don't like that type of slapstick. And I think the big difference is self-detrimental versus hurting somebody else. Mm-hmm. Because Chaplin, it's all on himself. He's doing all the slapstick on himself for himself. And Three Stooges, it's hitting other people and all that stuff. So I think that there's a difference there.
There's slapstick... You think of like violence almost, like a funny violence, but there's more to it than that. There's other things.
There's prank falls and there's there's
this, all of the physical things with the exception of the ladder fall, he physically did himself, from the handstand to the moonwalk thing he did to the climbing. They were physically able to do. Mm-hmm. That is funny to me because it's real situation. Today's physical comedy is mixed in with the CGI, which I do not like.
The ridiculous. Yeah.
I'm ready.
I just people are gonna know what I do and do not like.
Lizard in the mouth.
Lizard in the mouth.
I mean, he was
Daniel Day-Lewis, lizard in the mouth. We're gonna have our own code. All right, let me adjust the chair. Okay, go ahead.
My favorite part.
Oh yeah, we
Moving
haven't.
around.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
That's what was your favorite part?
Thanks. My
Thanks for
favorite part
asking.
was actually also a quote. It's Everything But Georgia, and I don't know why necessarily. It was just a very little intertitle, and the idea was that Chaplin had everything except Georgia. Everything but Georgia.
he became the millionaire.
Yes. And when I initially saw this, I saw this in like film school like a decade ago. That was what stuck with me. That one line, I really thought that was very sweet, and it kind of summed up his character in a nutshell. I always really appreciated that line.
I'm glad I
Do
didn't
we
get
need to
that
take
chair.
your chair away? Stand. You are going to stand for the rest of this podcast.
We're gonna need to tell our Mike.
My other favorite part, obviously, was the dinner roll scene. I think that's iconic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's reminded me.
Had you guys ever seen a reference to that or seen
No.
that clip before? Okay. 'Cause-
No.
I thought they were potatoes, so definitely no.
What I was thinking of is when he was eating the boot.
The boot. That's a famous part too.
I haven't seen that, but I have seen a clip. I believe it was Buster Keaton who's eating spaghetti.
Yes.
And he has to like cut it with scissors and he's having issues with, and all I could think of is I forgot about that. And then when I saw him eating the shoelace, I was like, oh wait, I thought this was, I couldn't like, anyway, that's all. Not that, and I haven't seen a Buster Keaton movie either. I've just seen clips of him.
Yeah, I had to decide between a Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin. And then I wanted to like screw everybody over and just go with like a Harold Lloyd because nobody remembers him. But no, we went with Chaplin.
I'm sorry. The only reason I know that is because isn't Zoidberg's uncle named Harold, who is a silent film star?
Is it?
I'm like, now I have to Google it.
I love
Yeah, Harold Zoid. I'm pretty sure. Hold on.
Oh my god.
Pause.
My favorite.
Dr. Zoidberg informs the crew that his uncle, Harold Zoid, was the star in the silent hologram era. So yes, I know who you're talking
Good
about.
job. Thank you, Futurama. Everything you need to know, you learn from TV and movies.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Guys,
I
I've
think-
learned so much in the last like 6 months alone.
I think the only reason my brother passed history was because of South Park. I'm serious.
Yeah, all right, that's fair. Hey, you know, anyway, you can get the information.
Yeah.
All right, ladies, please remove your hats and silence your cell phones. Excuse me.
Sorry.
She ironically
I
did
didn't
not
turn-
silence her cell
I
phone.
didn't take off my hat.
What did people have?
Woman treatment. Sorry, I had to say it was the only thing I had.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
That's
The weird, like, come here and kiss me, lady, but, like, he didn't have a voice because it was, like, not a talkie.
She kind of held her own though.
she
but
did.
she did. She slapped him straight across the face multiple times.
So
Well, throughout the movie.
Yeah.
I recognize that, but you're right. She did hold her own, although she did like write him a love letter and came
Yeah.
crawling back to him or whatever.
That
But
annoyed me.
it's Alaska in the middle of nowhere, and he apparently is, the big guy on campus.
Right.
What I actually didn't like was whenever she was on screen, they would just have Georgia on like the card, and it's like she doesn't even deserve like words or an introduction to the scene or acknowledgement that the audience would even remember who she is. It was just like, oh, and here's Georgia. Here's the girl. Like, I'm surprised it wasn't just girl.
I agree with you. Yes. She
She had flowers.
had a flower. She had a little embellishment, and that was her. That was her thing.
All right.
She was a flower, not a person.
Yeah, I mean, I will give her credit. She was fighting back, and she had a change of heart, and she did have a redeeming quality. She had all of those things. It was just, I thought it was weird. It was just like, Georgia. I don't know.
You're right. Like they had to constantly label her because the assumption was that you wouldn't recognize her. That said, all the girls did look alike.
That's true.
They all had the exact same fur hat.
And fur coat.
And
A lot of fur in this.
Yeah.
A lot of fur in this. Speaking of, but not really, the animals always, whenever an animal is on screen in an older movie, I'm a little tense because you know that they don't have the same rules that we do now.
Right.
So.
They've had a cat, a couple dogs, a bear. Yeah.
Which was fun, and nothing. There was only the one kick. There was one kick, and then that was it.
Well, and then they literally threw a cat on screen. It got scared and ran, and the dog chased after it.
Oh, they threw it?
I mean, I didn't realize it was part of, like, the scene yet. And I was like, where did this cat come from? Yeah. Like, it literally, like, just flew onto screen.
Yeah,
like
Meow.
Right.
I was just scared someone was going to eat the dog.
And it disappeared, and we never saw it again. Not at that part, but the second part, he kind of died with his master, I think.
Right.
Oh, no.
Or they were like, this is too hard. Let's just send the dog home.
Oh, no, the dog.
If I had written this, he would have been back at the cabin when the guys came back.
Yes.
That's what I would have done. And then he also should have gotten a top hat at the end. When
and lives with the millionaires and gets fed, like, you know.
Yeah, has its own little...
He gets, like, fed, like, steaks every night.
Aspects... Let's talk about aspects that did age well. Anybody got anything?
The humor.
The humor, yeah, held up. We were laughing out loud at several parts.
Mm-hmm.
I will say at the end of the day, it's a love story. I think that's the case with most of Chaplin's movies. Is it's a love story first and foremost, and they did follow the classic story structure of a love story, in the sense that she had to prove that she loved him before she found out he was rich.
Yep.
Which is definitely, like, you have to kind of
I think it was creative how they had him switch into his mining clothes for a picture for the paper or whatever, and then he just happens to fall backwards onto a spot on a ship where his boo,
his bae
was pining away for, all her petals fell off.
Did we have an explanation as to why she was on the ship?
They were all... I thought they were all coming back from Alaska.
She could have just been... I mean, I know at one point during the dance scene, she's like, I'm bored with this.
True.
So she could have just been over...
Winter.
Oh, and the guy kind of, like, poo-pooed her note, so maybe she was like, all right, well, I'm done.
I'm done. Yeah.
Okay.
Going off of that, a love story type thing, this was... The good guy wins in the end, and there was that bad boyfriend. So my favorite quote was when Betsy said, I think, Serena, you said, oh, is the bad guy going to win?
Why is she back with this loser?
Because the asshole always wins.
Is that true? I feel like it is.
I mean, at the end of Act 2, yes. The asshole always wins. Yeah. That's how that works.
I put that in my notes. Good guy gets the girl in the end.
Yep.
I was so, like, blown away that she forgave the, piece of crap guy who was like, come here and kiss me.
Going back to aspects that did not age well, I figured that there would be an issue in terms of ability to look away from the screen.
There was.
Because
there was.
I
couldn't take any notes because I was like, I cannot take my eyes off this TV.
Right.
I'm going to miss. And actually, there was a couple of times I looked down to write a note and I missed something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like the cane and the snow thing, and I'm like, what the?
Mm-hmm. And our generation is very much multitaskers. We're able to look at multiple screens and focus on different things while still watching a movie, and you really can't do that with a silent movie.
You had mentioned this before we started watching it, and I was like, well, no, we're pretty good at paying attention. And you made the point of saying, yes, and we do go on our phones, but it usually is related to the movie.
Yes,
it's always looking up like a character or
like, oh, what's this music? Like,
yes.
Like there was a point where you wanted to look up the music of silent movies.
So and you're right, we're multitasking. And usually with the movie, you can handle with what's going on because you can hear what's going on.
Yeah, it's so dialogue driven. Most movies are so dialogue driven that you can still follow what's happening. Yeah. The visuals are almost secondary.
And you're right. You couldn't do that.
Yeah. So
I feel like we had the same conversation way in the beginning when you showed us
Captain Blood.
Yes. And I was like, it really relied on the physical aspect of.
I think that it also speaks towards why modern audiences have issues watching foreign films.
Yes.
Because it's also, you have to be paying attention, you have to be watching the screen for the dialogue is in subtitles, unless you watch it dubbed, which I refuse to do. Like, no.
Yes, yes.
No.
So I think that it's actually I think a lot of people lump old movies and foreign films together because that you have the
Their
same
attention
amount of problem.
span. Yep.
You have to have all attention on the screen, which is unfortunate because you're missing out on a lot of really good movies.
Like, if I were to try and watch a silent film at my house, with a wild pit and
That's why
a distractible.
Yeah. That's
bearded
why I
man.
like. Sorry.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. I'm just like, with all the distractions, there's no way. Like, at work, at home, there's no way I could watch a silent film.
Right.
That's why I like audiobooks, because I have to be doing something else. I'm doing the dishes. I am cleaning up. I'm going to do laundry. I'm going to so I can't sit down and read, because that is one thing, and I have to be doing 10.
All that said,
Same here. Sorry.
all that said, I think we are coming back round unknowingly to silent films when you're on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and you watch a little movie and you haven't clicked the sound button, and suddenly you're watching something with no audio. And I think that a lot of it's mostly marketing, mostly ads, but I think that they've started tailoring to that type of audience. They've started using more physical or visual cues for that reason.
Especially if you're laying in bed, not that I do this, and someone next to you is passed out cold.
Never do that. Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, better have this on mute, because I don't want
Yep.
one of those obnoxious videos when you scroll down, it's like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, not interested in that.
Yeah. So
And just
So,
like
yeah.
gifts alone are just the.
Oh, yeah, that's
Right,
true.
right.
That's true.
So-
Good point.
next time when you're sitting in bed trying to fall asleep, watch a silent short instead. There you go.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
Betsy's here.
Call out.
You've been called out.
Wait a minute.
There it is.
Aspects. How has this movie influenced modern movies? So, obviously, I showed you guys a clip of Benny and June. Johnny Depp's character in that kind of idolizes Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin and, those types of silent film actors. And he does the dinner roll scene. So, that is obvious homage. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to Serena and to Tracy's chair for that.
This
No, I
episode
can't do
brought
it
to you
again.
by the creaking of the comfy chair.
Anything else? Did anything else pop out?
I have, obviously, Singing in the Rain.
I thought of Singing in the Rain not just because it was a silent movie, but specifically the music. Specifically, one of the songs in there reminded me of the piano player while they were shooting the Dancing Cavalier. Whatever it was.
Oh, yes.
It reminded me, like, all of a sudden I was right there back watching it. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, here we go. I can see now the transition.
It did remind me of The Wizard of Oz, which...
The house.
Yeah, the house scene, which I believe... Betsy, was it you or Trace that said it was 14 years later that Wizard of Oz was made? The wind blowing it, the winter wind or whatever, the storm blowing it.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Like The Wizard of Oz.
It was an
It
homage
even looked
from
the
it.
same like
It
the
did
same
look
house
like
and
the same
everything.
house, yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. What, Tracy, what were you going to say? Go.
So it wasn't so much a modern movie, but it was, Serena, you had mentioned Ben and Jerry. It was
Tom and Jerry.
Shit,
Yeah.
that's the ice cream.
I was going to say, I just got hungry.
Ben and Jerry, what did she say?
Serena, you had mentioned Tom and Jerry, and any cartoon is very physical comedy because it's a simple plot line, and children watch that. They could, or I'm thinking, okay,
Well, and
this
there's
is
no insurance problems with actors getting hurt while they're doing physical.
that's true. This is this is Looney Tunes, our generation.
Yeah, Looney Tunes, thank you. I was trying to think, I'm like, what
Cartoons.
is the...
I think they're very much more complicated and learning type thing cartoons today.
Yosemite Sam.
Yeah, like those things, like Bugs Bunny was very physical comedy.
I always think of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the opening scene with the baby, and it's so extreme. It's like the next step to the physical comedy. Anyway, sorry.
Yes. It also reminded me heavily of a graphic novel where you have these pictures, an entire scene, and you imagine what's going on and what they're thinking and what else is going on. And yes, they'll have a word bubble, but you'll have a sentence or a action or a thought, and that's it. Where that was the same with this. You'd have in the silent movie, you would have a dialogue to direct where they were going. But everything else, even some of their chit chat, you could just assume what they were saying. Mm-hmm. And that's very much in a graphic novel, and how it's very visual, and it's the imagination part of it.
Going back to pacing, that actually, I feel like there were a lot of shots that our brains were like, okay, oh my God, move on from this shot. It's lingering for so long. But like a graphic novel, you're taking in so much more information than you normally would in a modern day movie, because they assume that you're just going to pick up the information you need. And it's not until like the fifth or sixth, time watching it that you're like, oh, what's that random thing in the background? Here, you are lingering on the same shot with the same information for several seconds, so you have the time to look at the whole scene. It's a different way of watching a movie. But if
it goes back to what I was saying with the graphic, where
right, exactly.
You have to look at everything, and you're supposed to notice everything.
And
I
wonder if we had gone into it thinking of it more like a graphic novel. I wonder if the pacing may have worked a little bit better because you are expected to see the whole scene.
Yeah.
Just interesting. Are there any other aspects that remind us of modern movies? It's just, that's such a broad question. I feel like the comedy and Charlie Chaplin in general, I think he just informed so much of modern comedy.
Well, I was going to say, now that you mentioned it, the Penguin.
Yes.
From Batman.
Yes.
Very similar.
The
goofy
walk,
big shoes and the kind of the pimp walk / limp.
The pimp walk.
It was the pain. No.
Big Jim is the pimp, okay?
Yeah, actually, he had full body fur coat.
Also, can we call out Black Larson, the guy who looks like he could be like a modern actor today? I don't know what it was. It must have been the hair. It must have been his hairstyle.
And it was his face. He looked like, I even shouted out that he looked like the most interesting man in the world.
Yes.
What does he look like? Does anyone have a picture of that? Because
the most interesting man in the world?
He retired.
He also looked a little bit like Sam, what's his name?
Is it the guy from the ranch?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let me see the picture of the ranch guy, and let me see a picture of who you're talking about, because there was something about him that
Sam Elliott.
There was something very familiar about him, his face.
Yeah, it's weird. Every now and then when I'm watching a silent movie, on the rarest of occasion, there's somebody who just pops that you're like, wow, he looks real. Not that everybody else don't look real, but they look dated. They look like they belong in the 1920s.
Big Jim looked like a cartoon.
Right.
That's who we were relating him to. Whereas this guy, if you placed him in a modern drama, I would believe it.
Right.
He had, you know what I'm thinking? Maybe it's because he had facial hair, so he wasn't like powdered white like Charlie Chaplin was. Blatantly with the
lack of makeup, the neutral hairstyle, the neutral clothes. I think that's what it is. Yep.
He had, maybe it was Richard Gere that I'm thinking of.
I also thought when Big Jim and Charlie were interacting with him, they were over-exaggerated and he was just reacting like realistically, I feel like. It wasn't...
Almost like he wasn't an actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
we're surprising ourselves a lot with this. All right. Note roundup, everybody.
We talked about physical comedy. I have that here. I have the transitions I thought were very well done for what they had. So Serena was talking about the chicken, and the transition was Charlie is turning into a chicken and vice versa. It was well done.
It was very well done.
It was well done.
It was like a mirage.
Yeah, and they did it well. And they also have the effects with the house when it was... They must have had it on some sort of lift, mechanism to tip it. And when the storm that was like moving, they did well.
It was realistic. It
I mean,
like there was a couple of like little smidget and like cheesy,
like over
clips.
the top a little bit, but I will forgive that all. They did a great job because
for
it was
1925.
So much of it had to be practical effects.
Yeah.
That We're always impressed by practical effects these days.
We've got to talk about CGI because I always shit on it. And it's just when it's done badly, that's all.
Right, but it's so overdone.
Yeah.
Less is more,
yeah.
And nobody realizes that. I know, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the music for a second, because this particular version, we had a single pianist using the music that was provided from the movie, and I thought it was so effective because it was. I don't like watching silent films with like full orchestration and whatnot, because that wasn't what the experience was in the 1920s. All you had was a pianist, maybe a violinist, sitting in the theater with you to do the music. So I appreciated that they did it this way. Oh, a lot of the songs were familiar songs. Or some of the songs, at least.
Yeah, there were at least 2 of them where we were humming along and we were like, why do we know this?
It's classic music. Yeah. And I don't think, well, I guess I don't really know if it was made famous from this.
No, all of those, like, because we called out Loch Lomond, and then we called out, there was another song that we're like, oh, we know this.
Well, Old Lang Syne.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I was trying to figure out how to say that
but,
before I said it.
Those are all, like, old folk
songs.
Yeah. So I'm sure that part of the reason why they picked them, because players already know those songs, and they're easy fillers. So
I'll take the high road and Tracy takes the low.
Even like us as the audience, we got excited because we knew that. So I'm sure the people watching the movies would be like, okay, I'm into this. I've heard this before.
Are we still on notes?
Yep.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I have, thanks to Betsy reminding me that my thoughts should be jotted down.
Write that down.
Write that down. The introduction card, I guess you would, of someone being introduced onto the scene, Georgia. They had a little flower. One time was on the left, one time was on the right, whatever. Towards the end of the movie, it was more like petals leading to a flower. It was like a flower, almost like, I don't know, I guess you pointed out, like the dying flower. Or like she was picking off petals, like he loves me not kind of thing. Well, I don't know why I noticed it. It just stood out to me. I was like, ooh.
No, that was
totally
I didn't notice it.
Yeah.
But there's a term for girls who are past their prime. It's past their bloom. So I thought that's what it was referring to.
It probably is. But then I was thinking, he loves me not.
Which I also like.
And then I have good guy gets the girl in the end.
Good guy gets the girl.
Good guy gets the girl.
I would like to make a final note. Is this our final note?
I think so.
Yes.
That this movie we actually rented from a movie store. We went to a movie
still
store.
Exist, guys.
We found one, and we were going to watch this movie, Bets. You said you had picked this movie, but we wanted to watch the 1925 version.
I do own the 1942 version, but I didn't want to deal with the changes in that. So ideally I wanted the Criterion Collection, but this was good too. Anyway, point being, we went to a video rental place that Tracy has discovered.
Yes.
It was not Blockbuster, because those are no longer.
No. This is, shout out to Video Signals in Maynard, Massachusetts.
Yep. Oh my God, Video Signals used to be in Framingham too.
It is a art studio / used bookstore / it has a ton of movies to rent.
Ton of movies.
So super cool.
Yep. I'm very excited.
Favorite place.
Yep. Okay, so the martini shot.
Wait.
Would you recommend it? Tracy.
Okay. Yes. I would recommend people watching a silent movie to try it out, because I think it was fun. It was different. However, that's the only silent movie I've seen. So I feel like I should watch a couple more so I could recommend the best one, or the one I like the best, to whomever I'm recommending it to.
That's
so there's
fair.
a couple of caveats, but yes, I did enjoy it. I did like the silent movie. I think everybody should experience it once, at least, if not more.
Serena.
The pressure's on. I wrote, yes, great relaxing music.
Yes.
I always, for some reason, have Matt in mind with these things. I'm like, who could I even recommend this to? Like, he'll be asleep in 5 minutes into the movie, but it's fine because he's going to have great dreams because of this beautiful music. I liked it. I liked it more than I thought I was going to like it. I think there were parts that kind of a little bit dragged. but all in all, I would recommend it. I feel like people nowadays like don't have the appreciation for how far we've come with movies and film. So this could maybe shine a little light on, hey, you know, this wasn't that long ago. I mean, it was 1925 was a hike, but
it was 95 years ago, but it was only 95 years ago.
Yeah. When you think about it in the grand scheme of things,
not that long. Yeah.
Like right. Going off what you said, Serena, if I had already seen this movie and I knew the plot line, I almost feel like it's good background noise where it's nice music or whatever, you know, kind of fun. It doesn't really have a break in music. It just keeps going.
It's continuous.
And
you can stop for a few minutes and watch a scene and then move on.
Exactly. It's because it has those little different scenes and every scene has like a different slapstick mini plot. You could stop, watch it for a little bit, keep doing what you were doing. So you could multitask with it if you didn't mind not having the overarching plot. But that was,
Yeah, the thing is, now that I've seen it, I wouldn't be like so eyes glued to the TV having to pay attention to see what happens next. The music could almost tell you what's happening if you've seen it before.
Yeah.
So if I'm like meal prepping at the same time as it's on, you have the dramatic music, and then you have da-da-da-da, like happy, and then you have like the bits of sadness, and it's just like relaxing classical like piano. So I enjoyed it. I actually feel like I enjoyed it. A big part of why I enjoyed it was because of the music. I enjoyed the music.
Good.
So.
Yeah.
I of course recommend it because I have recommended it to this just now.
I was going to say is currently recommended.
But I think you're right. It's a different watching experience. You have to be prepared to set aside the time. It is an hour and a half long. It is the full-length movie. It's a long movie. So you have to be prepared and understand that you're not going into a movie as you know it today, and then you'll enjoy it. It's a moving graphic novel. I like how we came across that analogy. Sticking to it.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah. And I kind of didn't I didn't look at it that way until you brought it up, and I'm like, now that you've brought it up, it makes perfect sense. Like, you get to take everything in.
Yeah, it made me think of it because I've said on this podcast, I don't know how many times, that I like the dialogue-driven things. And even I say to you, for books, I like dialogue-driven. Yet I also read comic books. And I like that. Although my caveat for a comic book is I have to enjoy the visuals. Right. If you're an artist that I don't like, I don't care what else is going on. I don't like that comic book. So...
One more note. If you do want to experience a silent film for the first time, check out your local art house type cinemas. A lot of places will do a silent film with a live accompaniment, and that is the coolest way to experience a silent film. So I think that's just about it for this episode. Thanks for joining us. We'll be posting what our next movie will be on Twitter tomorrow. So head on over there and hit that follow button. You can also find us on Instagram. Our handle for both is @themoviemillies. To find more great episodes, head on over to our website, www.millennialsatthemoviehouse.com. So until next time,
we're millennials.
And we'll see you at the movie house.